If you want to be a lawyer, a doctor, a hairstylist, or any other occupation that requires a license in the state of California, a new law would prohibit you from getting a license unless you had the right skin color. Does that sound racist to you? It's not only racist, it's unconstitutional. And I'll tell you about this law and what we're doing to stop it. I'm Carl DeMaio, chairman of Reform California. And look, I have seen a number of offensive, unconstitutional, racist laws being proposed out of Sacramento Democrats in the past several years. But this one, I think, takes the cake. Let me tell you all about it. It is Assembly Bill 2862. Assembly Bill 2862. Here's the Pacific Legal Foundation with a story on this bill. California Occupational Licensing Bill picks winners and losers based on their race. It's by my good friend Andrew Canillo, and he's a lawyer with Pacific Legal Foundation. Now, let me just start first by talking about licenses and certifications in California. Like any state, the state of California requires people who want to pursue a certain job or profession to get a state-issued license. So, for example, if you are a hairstylist, you need to get a state license to cut hair. Why? I have no idea. I think it's crazy. I don't think you should have to get a license, but it's one of hundreds of license requirements in the state of California. Obviously, if you're a lawyer or a doctor, you must get a license for that vocation and that career. First thing I want to say is, if we're going to have any legislation on licensing in the state of California, it should be, why don't we reduce the number of licenses that people have to get? But I digress. What Assembly Bill 2862 would impose is that as a state government agency with a license requirement considers applicants, that they should be looking at the skin color of applicants and prioritizing the issuance of a license for a career using skin color. This is racist. When you consider what we call an immutable characteristic of an individual, immutable characteristic means I can't change it. I can't help it. It's not my fault. I can't do anything. This is a characteristic of me, like my gender or my sexual orientation or my race, that I can't control. Well, that's against the law. The U.S. Constitution, the 14th Amendment, says that equal protection under the law means that a state cannot discriminate against someone based on gender. They've expanded that to sexual orientation. They have also said that you can't discriminate based on someone's religion or their race. Pretty common sense stuff. It's what, decency would require. It's fundamentally fair and American to say that everyone should be treated equally in the eyes of the law in any government process, and that we shouldn't hold those characteristics against them. But no. In California, if you are white and if you are male, you are going to be discriminated against in the issuance of licenses for these professional and occupational categories. It says that Assembly Bill 2862 is about the reparations movement. The bill would prioritize African American applicants in the issuance of these licenses in any industry overseen by the state of California's Department of Consumer Affairs. And we're talking about professions ranging from medicine and nursing and therapy to, again, cutting hair. The U.S. Supreme Court has been very clear that this is illegal, but state legislators don't care about legality. They're all about showboating and grandstanding and virtue signaling. And that's why I believe that what we're going to probably find is a passage of this law, because liberal California Democrats in the state assembly and the state senate are hell-bent on virtue signaling and playing the race card, and it's disgusting. I have seen a pattern from particularly California politicians of them passing laws that on the face of them, they are absolutely against the U.S. Constitution. We've seen a lot of this on gun control, where the state of California repeatedly is smacked down by the federal government, by the Supreme Court, on bills that they're passing on gun control that the Supreme Court has said, nope, you can't do that. It's against the Second Amendment. But then after that law is shot down, the governor and the state legislature pass the same exact law. They know that AB 2862 is illegal. They know it's offensive. They know it's racist. But they want to divide us. And they want to basically say, well, look, we're giving reparations out by forcing government to only consider people with a certain skin color first and put everyone else at the back of the line. It's insane. It is offensive, and it needs to stop. The Pacific Legal Foundation has filed a lawsuit against issues like this, and the Pacific Legal Foundation will succeed. But for those of you out there who will be seeking a license while this law is on the books, you're screwed. You will be limited in your career opportunities for what? A year, 2 years, 3 years, however long it takes for this stupid law to get shot down by the Supreme Court. That is a real deficit, a real damage to you, a real negative impact to you from this lawlessness, this affront on our constitutional rights that California Democrats are willing to undertake. They're willing to inflict upon you, all in the name of race baiting. It is disgusting. Trades such as door repair, carpentry, landscaping require entrepreneurs to devote hours, including 1,460 days, to supervise practice and spend up to thousands of dollars for a license before they can legally work. Licensing requirements actually reduce minority entrepreneurship. And so if you want to deal with licensing disparities, what you should do is try to reduce the entry for someone to get a license. Make it easier for them to get a license. And people are going to say, oh, Carl, if we don't have strict licensing requirements, people who are incompetent will take over. You want to look at a state government employee? You want to talk about incompetence? How about we have a licensing requirement for a member of the legislature, or a licensing requirement for a member of a government bureaucracy? The Pacific Legal Foundation is correct that when we're looking at licensing reform, it shouldn't be to give preference to people based on skin color. It should be to cut the red tape. It should be making it easier for people to pursue a given profession. There are all sorts of quality controls that can be put in place to weed out bad actors in this industry. There are representation disparities, and the Pacific Legal Foundation in this story points it out. There are actual examples where African Americans are having a greater share of participation, and would call into question whether this bill is even needed. There's a greater percentage of African Americans working in rail transportation than Hispanics. There is greater participation in home healthcare services, 26.4% African American to 19.6% in home healthcare. In nursing care, it's 27.7 to 10.6%. There's a greater share of African Americans and Hispanics working at all levels of government. But no one's out there saying, well, we need a Hispanic licensing preference, thank goodness, because that would be unconstitutional. No, the best way to get people an opportunity to move ahead is to make licensing easier, and to remove licensing requirements from professions where you shouldn't have to require a license. Again, hair cutting. I think someone who doesn't know how to cut hair will pretty much be taken out of that profession based upon the number of haircuts they screw up. Guaranteed. I don't need government certifying my hairstylist. Okay. And a lot of licensing requirements are actually government mechanisms to limit competition. It doesn't benefit the consumer. If people want to go out and pursue a trade, a profession, I say have at it. Again, I'm not saying get rid of all the licensing requirements. There are good cost-benefit analyses that can be done to justify them. But if you want to deal with disparities, if you want to make economic opportunities available to all races, all individuals, all socioeconomic groups, look at cutting red tape, not giving racial preferences. I want to give you an update on the bill, the transparency bill introduced by Assemblymember Vince Fong. that would limit the use of non-disclosure agreements or ban the use of non-disclosure agreements in creating and negotiating legislation. We found out through the Panera Gate scandal a few weeks ago, where a owner of the Panera restaurants got an exemption from the minimum wage bill. We found out that that corrupt deal was worked out behind closed doors, and that nobody can talk about who put the language in the bill because they're all muzzled by a non-disclosure agreement. For public legislation, this is insane. Even government staff are not allowed to talk because they were part of discussions that are subject to non-disclosure agreements. This is offensive, and nobody should be operating our government under a non-disclosure agreement behind closed doors. The public has a right to know who was involved in putting language into a bill that becomes public law. It's transparency, and that's how we hold people accountable for their behavior. But Democrats were given an opportunity this week to vote on Vince Fong's bill, Assemblymember Vince Fong's bill, that would ban the use of NDAs in legislative negotiations. They blocked the bill. They killed this move for more transparency. Here is KCRA's reporting on the topic.
Non-disclosure agreements during the lawmaking process in California will continue to be used, at least for now. A bill to try to stop the secretive practice during negotiations did not move forward in committee today.
The bill was a result of our reporting on how the secretive agreements were used in the final rush negotiations of California's fast food labor law. KCRA 3 Capitol correspondent Ashley Zavala has been following this story and the lack of transparency around California's lawmaking process.
Halloran, no. Lackey?
California lawmakers in the Assembly Elections Committee blocking a proposed ban on the use of non-disclosure agreements in the state's lawmaking process. It was a party line clash.
I need to know, what if you were in a room, you said, you know what, the governor has an important donor, we need this exemption. How am I going to find that out?
That's not the case.
We don't know, Madam Chair. We've never had any hearings.
What you see is the bill. You see the bill in print. You see the amendments in print. And if you read that bill carefully,
Most Democrats on the committee refused to even cast a vote. The Democratic leader of the committee, Assemblymember Gail Pellerin, voted no, saying the bill was too rushed, even though she has a record of voting for rushed proposals.
I have no comment right now.
After the hearing, she refused to answer questions as I followed her out of the Capitol and down the street.
Assemblymember Pellerin, so I just want to be clear. So you are okay with the use of non-disclosure agreements being used in the public policy making process here at the state Capitol?
We will be preparing a statement regarding that.
I mean, even on the fast food labor law, the assemblyman said that he wasn't even in the negotiations. And knowing that, you still voted for this bill within 72 hours last year.
We will be preparing a statement.
You are an elected official. Your salary is paid for by the taxpayers of California.
They conducted a public hearing.
They deserve answers.
And they will get answers.
They won't get answers because you won't even answer the question of the reporter. By the way, bravo to KCRA's Ashley Zavala. I don't compliment the media very often. I have been so impressed by her reporting on a wide range of topics. And I'm surprised that NBC, this affiliate, allows her to continue to work there. I think she's a gold mine. I think that she is doing a great public service through her reporting and asking these questions. I mean, this Democrat chairwoman of this Assembly Committee, she's never been asked a tough question ever before in her life. We will be releasing a statement. You don't need a statement. Answer the damn question, my dear. Answer the damn question. Oh, this legislation is rushed. You have voted for things that literally are introduced seconds before your vote. Don't hide behind, oh, this is rushed. Because guess what? The Panera Bread scandal has been exposed for the last 3 months. This isn't rushed. This is a no-brainer. This is offensive that this woman is even in the assembly. She's part of the corruption. And thank goodness Ashley Zavala is asking the tough questions and calling her out. Her constituents ought to be absolutely irate at this willingness to keep this corrupt system behind closed doors, behind the curtain.
Can you give us a peek into your prepared statement?
She would not and walked into her office building. The committee heard from supporters like the California Business Roundtable and California News Publishers Association, who said NDAs could keep important public information secret. Opponents, including the California Restaurant Association and the California Chamber of Commerce, said the bill was too broad and worried how it could impact lobbyists.
Has the Cal Chamber ever used an NDA or signed an NDA in the crafting of policymaking?
Yeah, I'm not going to comment on
that, whether we sign NDAs. It's an easy question to answer. Either you have or you haven't. This is the swamp. This is the corrupt system that we need to drain and reform. It's one of the reasons why I'm running for state assembly. It's one of the reasons why Reform California is trying to create a Reform California caucus. It's all about not just achieving policy outcomes, but breaking the corruption of this broken system. Having accountability, having transparency. And in order to hold people accountable, you need to know what is being done. You need the transparency. This guy from the Chamber of Commerce carrying the water of the corrupt system. The mighty do not want you to know what they're doing. Your government requires accountability. You deserve to know, whether you're a Democrat, Republican, or independent. It doesn't matter. You deserve a right to know who is pushing legislation and putting exemptions into bills late at night. The NDAs are depriving you of your right to know. So this bill was voted down. The swamp wins, at least this round. But as I mentioned, we are trying to shake things up. So go to reformcalifornia.org, reformcalifornia.org. Chip in a contribution, because we are fighting for transparency, to ban NDAs. We're fighting to elect better assembly members and state senators. I'm fighting to get up there so I can be your voice every day behind closed doors in the chamber, in the committee rooms, to speak out against this nonsense. Also, sign up for updates. We send out our news updates every Friday. And of course, this show posts every day at 5 o'clock on YouTube and our social media channels. Like and subscribe to this channel so that you stay up to date on the latest in California news and politics. Until next time, Carl DeMaio, Chairman of Reform California. Help us break through the censorship of the liberal media. Like this video, subscribe to this channel, and smash that notification button so you can stay up to date on all the developments in California news and politics. Also, please visit the website, reformcalifornia.org, for ongoing news coverage and to join one of our campaigns in the fight to take back our state. If you can, please sign up as a volunteer or chip in a contribution. This episode of Reform California with Carl DeMaio, paid for by Carl DeMaio for State Assembly 2024.